live from Trinidad and Tobago.
Welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesdays live show.
I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph.
So, good afternoon, one and all. Good afternoon to the Caribbean. Welcome to Wednesday Alive. I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus. Welcome again, all those in the Caribbean, to our show this evening.
Yes, and today, Jennifer and I have, we'll be talking about a very important topic. Now, over the last couple of weeks, you would remember, and all of you throughout the Caribbean, you know who you are, Trinidad and Tobago. We had an audience member last week correcting me. Thank you very much, Ms. Dorset. Trinidad and Tobago, one nation, like Antigua and Barbuda. Okay. But we have been over the past couple of weeks talking about the different dilemmas that face us as the 50 plus cohort, this 5.8G generation. And Jen, we have been talking about how our programs, whether they are under the economic entrepreneurship area, whether they're on self-care, financial coaching, or whether they're social, can help us to get through some of those dilemmas. And today we are continuing that, and we are focusing on a very important area, Jennifer, and this is an area of your interest, which is financial coaching. And so we are in for a treat. So I want everyone to make sure that they sit down, pay attention, because this is you, it's your money. So Jennifer.
Yeah, and Terri-Ann, I just don't want them to sit down, but send us a note, send comments.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think, if you're in agreement or not, or what you yourself going through. So yes, so we're going to be chatting on the financial dilemmas. And I want to take it, Terri-Ann, because I want to ensure each group, on board with us, and share solutions for each group. And when I said each group, looking at three sections. So we'll start with the 50 to 60, who now coming on the third act stage. And that's because many of you still be in the workplace, but thinking of transitioning because your retirement age, many companies, you go at either 60 or 65. So at least if you're 50, you're planning you have 10 years to plan to leave. If 55, 60, some may only have 5. Mm-hmm. But the concern and the questions normally come up for this age group is, can my reduced income really sustain me, meet my needs? And that's because, Terri-Ann, we know that at that stage, when someone leaves the workplace, when they retire from the workplace, their income normally reduced about 50%. Yeah. So, and they have to live on that 50% unless they decide to, and we talk a lot about monetizing your skills. And Terri-Ann spoke a lot about that with our guests last week. Mm-hmm. Or, the concern also for those who may be getting a lump sum of money in addition to that monthly pension is what to do with that lump sum. Should I, if I have a mortgage or a big loan, should I pay it off, etc.? So I just want to address those two key questions that comes up all the time, as dilemmas. Mm-hmm. What should I do? And I just want to, again, we repeating, and you will hear me say over and over, it requires planning, right? Because, Terri-Ann, if you know that you're going to leave the workplace soon and you're transitioning, then you need to plan. Mm-hmm. So those out there who in that grouping in the workplace still need to transition within the next 5, 10, even 15 years is not too early. You have to start now. Looking at asking your company, getting from the accounts department exactly what your pension package is like.
Mm-hmm.
Don't guess. Don't leave it to chance. You would be surprised how many people don't know. Even within the same year they're leaving. So make sure you go and you get that information. And that is the information will guide you as to what the next steps are. So you have that. You have what you plan to do when you leave. What sort of lifestyle you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still going to have dependents on you or not, with the people depending on you? Do you have adults children who may be home, who's still in university, etc.? So look at each person's situation would be different. And even when you leave the workplace, you may have different commitments. So my suggestion again is plan, ensure that you have accurate information, and that will also guide you to how to budget, because your budget, look at your budget now and decide how you're going to cut that budget. You have to cut. If your salary being cut in half, then you have to look at the expenses being reduced also. And that same lump sum, then you will decide, and it varies. You may hear certain advisors telling you, pay off that mortgage or pay off that loan. Others may say, don't do it. Each person is different. It all depends on your situation, what your new income will be like, what your lump sum will be like, it varies. So the main thing is understand your situation, know what you're going to be getting from your company, and make a plan. And I don't need to tell you that, Terri-Ann, we are here to support, because this is what our transition program is all about, to help you. For those who may find it very challenging to do it on your own, we are here to take you step by step on it. Terri-Ann, anything to add for those who would 50 to 60?
I think the 50 to 60, they as one who is on the last on the precipice of it, and happily jumping over to the second stage. I really do think, Jennifer, that is really solid advice. But I think the challenge for the 50 to 60-year-olds is looking down the road realistically. I think that group is more likely to be looking backwards or trying to stay put, or not looking realistically at what life outside of the second act stage is going to be, because that person is probably at their pinnacle and really starring, as they say, is whatever you're doing, whatever you have all the experience, so you're cooking with gas, so the discussion that you're talking about is one that they probably have a lot of fear, and they probably have a lot of sadness and denial, and they are like ostriches, if I may be so brave to say, sticking their heads in the sand, but not realizing the part that is exposed to get a good swift kick when they finally leave the second act stage. So I really do hope that they take an hour or two, and just have the conversation with you, have the conversation, and get a sense of where you are. I think the challenge for that group is, hey, you're having a good time, but just pause.
Yes.
Yes.
And in cases too, they may be hoping that the company keeps them on and they will continue earning the income. But in these times, that may not be a reality.
Or even if it doesn't keep them on, the husband or the boyfriend or the family or some Florence Nightingale or some angel is going to backfill. And some of them, as Pat made a joke last week and said, my boss is nice, he'll take care of me. Have the idea that somehow it will work out, and that's the dangerous thing about this first group.
And Terri-Ann, that brings me into, so I'm leaving your group, Terri-Ann.
I'm in the second group.
So she's not yet at this stage.
I have
And
not made that mistake, Jennifer. I did not make that mistake.
so yeah, and you're quite correct. You
I'm a
know, you
fan of
cannot
it.
live in that. Yeah, you know, say stay in that bubble. No, you have to move on. And the 60 plus, and let me say the 60 to, let me go to 70. So doing it in 10-year periods. That group, Terri-Ann, you know, you mentioned there about when you leave that earlier stage, coming into the 60s, you tend to think, okay, I will get support. It's either I will get support from the adult children who working because you felt you spent all your money educating them, supporting them, helping with the young ones, that this time you would expect them to support you in some way, give you something, you know, make up for the half that you didn't, you know, with your salary, that shortfall.
Jennifer, some of them so brazen. They do expect a little bit of help, you know. They feel entitled.
Yes, yes. You know, sometimes they may want to, you just bought your car before you retire, and then you wander through and say, okay, you could pay the installment for me. It not work. It don't work like that. The other aspect of that, you know, you're getting that idea that you will be supported is not just from the children. Many of you all, and I'm looking at both sides. You have the woman who, you know, traditionally you may dependent on your spouse or your partner in some way. You're working, but they're taking up sometimes the bulk of the expenses in the house. So they may pay the bigger bill, and you tend to focus maybe on, I don't want to even say food before. Food is a big bill. All right. But the bottom line is you tend to you say, well, okay, some of us may say, I am going home, but my partner, one way or the next, male or female, still in the workplace and could help me. So if it's not a children could help, it's your partner could help. And but that dependency, I want to share. I feel very strongly though about that, Terri-Ann. And I want to just share a story here. And I'm speaking here of those 60 plus who are for the workplace may not have made that decision as yet to, or may not intend to work again, do something at the side, be an entrepreneur. And so, you know what? I can live with what I am getting. And I just want to relax, maybe support some way, mind the grand or garden or just hang with the boys and enjoy yourself. I have a very good friend right now who hanging with the boys. And his wife going mad. But yeah, but we have to be careful with that support. And this is the story I want to share. And it is not a positive one, but we need to be very careful. So for instance, and let me say Jane, and I'm just using Jane, and this is for those females. In her case, yes, she has been living very happily with her partner. She's married and divorced and met a gentleman, and they both living, as we say, happily ever after. In that she's getting that she getting that support from him. She has 2 adult children, they're doing okay, and they've moved out. So she's there very happy in the house. And then, of course, unfortunately, Terri-Ann, he died. All right. And so that we have to look what happens in a crisis. And I'm using for this particular story, and this is real, death occurred. And Terri-Ann, of course, she was devastated because he took charge of most of the bills. She paid things, but she never worried about the future because she knew she had that support. And even though her got a reduced income, oh, the lump sum, she enjoyed herself. All right. So she went like what many of us do on a trip and but not thinking future. And with the demise of her partner, unfortunately, legally, he did not put anything in place for her. He had something overseas. It wasn't an issue, it wasn't anything. But on the death, and the son came back, the house she was living in with him was his house. As I said, it wasn't an issue all the time,
Mm.
you know. And legally, his son owned the house.
Mm.
I know, those who listen may say she have because she's entitled when you live in common law for more than 5 years, etc. But unless you ensure that at that time, if that property was joined between him and his son, because we don't know, many times you buy property, especially if you may have a child who's doing well and may say, okay, let me buy the house for you or pay the down payment, and they're part of it. But unless that comes early in a discussion, you wouldn't know. Unfortunately, in her case, the son really was inherited the house,
Mm-hmm.
lived overseas, so he put it up for sale, etc. And the moral of the story here is that she wasn't in the streets, but it just was, she ended up with nothing then
Yeah. Yeah.
and had to relook, she had to start life all over again. Now looking to plan what she's going to do and really turning to her children to see if they could support. And I'm sharing that story, Terri-Ann, to show how important it is for us. It should be at all ages, but we are, especially after that workplace, we should not take anything for granted. Anything for granted. Whether it is you're married, you're living with, whatever sort of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you should examine what would happen in the event of a crisis. And the crisis in this case was death. It could be disability because, I came out of the insurance field and we used to see sometimes disability is worse than death.
Mm-hmm.
Because disability, the cost to support that person, the medical cost, the support cost, etc., is so high,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that these are the things that we have to concern ourselves about and just don't take it for granted. And Terri-Ann, I'm sure you have heard of many stories
I
in
think
situations like that.
I think one of the things too, Jennifer, with the 50 to 60, and I want to take it coming off of that happy stage, no, the 60 to 70,
Yes.
the,
Mhm,
the happy, lucky 50 to 60s, where we just talked about them, having a good time. Yeah, the pinnacle
mhm.
and yeah, the peak, and your eye is off your ball. And it
Yeah.
is when you leave that second act stage and you're suddenly on the middle, the first stage of the third act. You're 60, you've finished work. And as you say, death happens. But Jennifer, remember we talked about you've spent all this time in your career. And when you're suddenly off of the career, you turn around and you watch the spouse, you watch the children, you watch yourself, and you say, but who am I? Who are you? Who are
Yes.
you? You have changed so much fundamentally that you find yourself incompatible. So the other D is divorce,
Yes.
separation. And all of a sudden, you look and you realize, I was having so much fun then. I left my asset management to someone else. Now the relationship is broken.
Yes.
You are on your own and you really don't know where the documents are, whose name is on what. And even if you know that you have contributed so many hundreds and thousands of dollars, you have no records, no nothing. And you're just in the lurch. So that D is almost like a disability. because now you have to start over without the prop of your career and your perks and
Yeah.
so on. And a lot men and women. This one is equal opportunity.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
When a couple in their 50 to 60s become, they build assets together, and I think people get deluded into not understanding how much of what they have and own as a result of a joint effort. They feel so empowered that I could go on my own. But when you are on your own, you cannot. You
Yeah.
cannot, unless you have built significant reserves through that career. You can't. So it is so important for the 60s to 70s, not only in the anticipation of death, but when you look at your life and you figure, well, how am I going to live this life? Because I don't like what I see in front of me that is not work, or the people around don't have my enthusiasm, or I'm not getting the
Mhm.
support, or people aren't interested. My friends, where are my friends? I have to start all over. People don't realize that you need to factor those things in and have resources in place to continue living a life that you want to live.
You know, Terri-Ann, it may sound selfish, but
Yeah.
we are saying this is the stage. We have to be selfish. We have to be realistic also. And
And
when
let's
it
say
coming,
self-focused. Let's say
yeah,
self-focused.
self-focus. Oh, yes. Because, when it comes to money, it creates so much discord, so much havoc sometimes, you know, because we tend to, and that is the age group, as I said, I am in this era, this is 60 to 70. We grew up at a time where we are very secretive when it comes into financial issues. We don't discuss it. We want to appear and they say after you look successful, that's great. But there is a time when you need to share and have that, we say, difficult conversation about money.
Let's,
You know,
Jennifer, I want to change that narrative. It is
sure.
not a difficult conversation. Have the conversation, because people don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. Why is it difficult? Why is the conversation difficult when it deals with your reality?
I think the conversation is difficult because depending on, not depending, in most cases, and this is culture,
Mhm.
cultural beliefs. And in Trinidad, I know we have varied cultures, right?
Mhm.
But if you grew up in a household where when a discussion comes about money, it's always an argument,
Mhm.
right? Argument with one party don't have and somebody always spending, etc., etc. So it's always a lot of negative energy around. And I wouldn't say this the argument about money. It don't ever be a discussion. Normally it's be an argument. Um, when you have to face a serious decision, as serious as, okay, do we have sufficient money to send that child university, or do we have sufficient money for that person to do a course or something?
What to live, to pay
Yeah,
the mortgage.
to help them on a down payment, whether down payment for car, etc. It always comes up with it's not it don't come natural, simply because the money conversation hasn't been a natural part of discussion within that particular household. Many of us grew up like that. Again, you felt that it's so for adults to make the decision. Adults will discuss, and you would not bring in the rest of the members or the children. It could be a decision to send that child to university or send them to do a course, but you're not bringing them into the discussion. So yes, we have to change, as you said, the change in narrative, change the culture. And we it's not too late for us at the 60 plus to do it, because we need to recognize that if it wasn't done before, It has to be done now because it's impacting on our future and on the money we have.
Jennifer, I want to also be brazen again and say that if at 60 plus you're starting a discussion about sending a child to college, to university, you're starting real late. And unless you have huge savings, the discussion with the child is how you're going to work to continue school. I think it is unreasonable for an adult at 60 who has finished their work life, who does not have savings, to expect that they will carry a child through. If they plan to, of course, you are free to plan to, but you are obviously going to be cashing in serious assets, selling your house and stuff. If you haven't prepared up to that time, the discussion needs to be, how, young man or young woman, are you going to work? I could give you this 10,000 or this 5,000 from a lump sum, but how are you going to sustain it? You know, and I think that goes back to something that we do. We spend so much of our resources on others. At 60, when you're preparing 60 to 70, you have to think, how am I financing my life, not financing somebody else's life? And I know this is going to sound harsh, and I'm probably seeing all the comments being typed in already. Terri-Ann, what land have you come from? But being realistic, being very realistic. If you are in good health, you have your capacity and your faculties around you. It's who are you going to be still earning money to support?
Terri-Ann, what you're saying is I agree with you that people should look at that. But let me tell you, Terri-Ann, there are so many people I know and I have coached, and as I said, coming out from the insurance industry, have been spoken to on that, who has mortgaged their homes to help those children, either with dump, and I'm telling you, to help them buy a car, to help send money to university. They may have started even before, and that's the other thing. So they would have started maybe while you're still in the workplace and you could afford it. But some of them, and there's a friend of mine who made the joke that they retired and the son decided, well, he wanted to do his master's. And where the money coming, and looking at the parents, expecting them, because he knows that they got a lump sum. And that lump sum, he's entitled to that. Again. So you are correct in saying we need to be aware of these, because you want the best for them, and you want the best for yourself. And what you may be thinking is that when they're educated and they get their jobs, that then you either getting paid back in cash or in kind or in support. And we should not make that our decision based on emotions.
Jennifer, we own the house that we live in. Our mortgage is paid off. I know that my children will not be able to, on their own, purchase another house of similar, because they're going to take a lot longer because of the present job market and economy. They're going to take a lot longer to be where we were at 28 to 35. They will probably get there when they're 40 or 45. So I know that the house we live in will have to be organized for a bigger family or whatnot. I don't think, if you're thinking of, all right, I have to help them with the hope that they will in turn pay off and so on, you're looking at life through inner rose-colored glasses. They paint crimson. And I'm not saying don't do it, I am saying drop that caveat of they will pay back. Recognize I am taking my lump sum and all of my resources and I'm giving it to a child and leaving myself to face the whatever it has to face if the economy turns and my child is not able to take care of me. I think that is a reality, that 60 to 70 period, you have to be real. And this taking your money and paying it to children with the expectation, this is the caveat. If you're giving it to them as a gift, give it away. But do not do it expecting that in 5 or 10 years' time, their position is going to be different. Unless there's an inheritance coming, the world economic situation says it ain't going to be different. You've just given away half of the money you need to live until
Yes.
you are 95.
My other solution to that also, and I always recommend, Terri-Ann, to any group that I'm dealing with or chatting with, you see, having a conversation is so important.
Mhm.
And recognizing, and it could be, if even if you don't have children and your nieces, your nephew,
Whatever.
whoever, your loved ones,
Your
that
parents,
you,
your
yeah, your
parents
parents,
should be very
that you
demanding.
plan, that will be part of your life as you move forward, um, need to understand what is happening. You need to lay the cards on the table. Okay. And for example, I know at this time I live alone. I have my two daughters who, like everybody, all the young people right now, looking at what is happening in the job market,
Everybody hustling.
holding on, whether they should take a risk, and different financial decisions they have to make. If they have to add me onto their burden, their financial challenges, it's going to be very depressing for them. So I'm aware of that. So what do? I need to have a meeting and chat with them, understand what they want to do and how they're doing it, and let them also understand how what I am doing and what I would like for myself in the future.
Yeah.
We also need to look and this is another, I would say, I use the word difficult thing, but it's a scary, it's very scary when you have to discuss what happened in the event of death, what happened in the event of disability. But it is a reality, and
Mhm.
we need to look at, do you want, in the event of an emergency, do you need to downsize a bit, maybe sell that car and do without one when that time comes? You need to share with your loved ones what decision you would make in the event of an emergency. I have been, I read just 2 days ago an article which I plan to put on our Facebook page about, the baby boomers, and they recognize that whereas Alzheimer's in the era before us defined was decreasing, the right now the baby boomers, they have seen an increase. And the researcher, the professor, was saying they believe a lot of it has to do with stress and anxiety, and coming off of that workplace, we have been under a lot of pressure to produce, pressure to earn more, and to do everything better. And we forgot about taking care of ourselves. And at this stage now,
You just got you
we
did.
have so much on us that our body's saying, hey, our brain's saying we can't take anymore. So it is important, and financial issues are one of the most traumatic type of issues you can deal with at this stage. So to avoid getting yourself into that um, deep financial struggles in your 60s, is to really face reality and realize too, I may have enjoyed a certain lifestyle then. I want to continue with that lifestyle or enjoying a good lifestyle. Nothing is wrong with that. But hey, do I have the money to do it? Or should I look at my situation? In one of the stories, you had this person who decided to go live in a smaller apartment, more luxurious, etc., and give up her house. Said she did enough for the children, and this is what she's doing. You could, you have to make certain decisions, but your loved ones has to be on board with you.
Mhm.
Other than that, Terri-Ann, your money just keep going.
It's away. And I want to bring one other and again we look at the context of the decisions, and I want to emphasize to people that the the money that you have between 60 and 70 would be your pension and whatever you would have managed to save. We're not doing if you win the lottery or get an inheritance. If you do, you're lucky, and this discussion is not for you. But whatever money you have between 60 and 70 is the money to take you through to your 90s, till that time. So when we are talking about what you're doing with your money, I want to ask people to please leave everybody else out of it. We've talked about the children, but you see, the husband and the wife, whether it is the spouse, I'm not going to say husband or wife, the spouse who, if you are looking at things realistically, but your spouse refuses to see that life has changed, or if your spouse is in another stage of the stage, your spouse may be older, or your spouse may be younger, your spouse in the 50s and you in your 60s, or your spouse in the 70s and you in your 50s or 60s. How you look at money is different, and your spouse may be pressuring you to live and spend like you're on a different stage.
Yeah.
And that's another source of real conflict. And I think we've not been, probably our children are more equipped to have a discussion that starts with me. We are more into we and the responsibility and the think about the children and think about the parents and think about everybody else. But when you are making decisions about what goes on with your money in your 60 to 70 years, any portion that you hand to somebody else, you are reducing the amount that you have for you. And I am just saying, let that be a conscious decision. Don't have a hope on the end that I'm doing it, but they're going to help somebody. Assume nobody will help. And when you give it away and know it's not coming back.
The solution to that, and I am referencing where you spoke about those who may have living with a partner or have a spouse with them in the home. And yes, one may have been a spender, a limer, as we say, for the entire life. And it is very difficult.
Love fashion and travel. And
so could you imagine, now that you're out of the workplace, you're home with a lot of time, being told that you can't climb again. You can't go and have things. You can't do the things that you were limited. It was just couldn't do much of it because you were working, and now you could do it. And men, aren't you say men and women? What my suggestion would be here is that we are not taking away anybody's joy, but this is the time you need to sit and say, okay, and I'm not even suggesting joint income. We're not discussing that right now. What I'm saying to you is that, okay, this is what it would cost for us, the monthly expenses in the household, the shared expenses, the basic food, utilities, the basic expenses. And if that is $5,000, okay, you decide how you want to share it. Whether it is, I'm not even suggesting if his retirement income is 10 and yours too. This is not about that. This is you deciding that, okay, our household, it takes 10,000 to support the household every month. How much you put in it, how much I put in it, and we are committed to that to ensure. You see, the rest, where the confusion comes in, is when I want to tell you what to do with your rest of the money. And I am vexed because you're taking that rest of money and you're going on a trip with friends, and I don't want to travel. That's okay. Remember, we also have to enjoy, we want to enjoy our life then. So my suggestion is just ensure that the committed amount to make sure you all could meet your needs, your basic needs, and be happy, and then you can. What happens in many cases, people feel that they need to have this joint income and they don't want the other party to know how much you're getting, how much you're spending, etc. And they will say, I'm too old for this nonsense. Okay, so I'm not talking about joint account, etc. Just make sure that your money for the needs, and also each person have that money put aside, or have an existing insurance, and I shouldn't say existing, a current, because some people feel that they have the insurance policy, but they're not paying, and when time comes, it's no longer, valid. Because again, an emergency. So each party see about what happens in an emergency. Am I paying towards a medical? Because at 60 plus, if you have had a medical plan before, you continue paying it. I could tell you because I continue paying my medical plan. So I know in the event of any sickness, at least I have some money could help me there. In the event of death, there is money to bury me. After that, so you don't leave in anybody, your spouse or your partner now in more debt, and that time comes.
Pressure.
All right. So in all your enjoying life, take care of those critical issues. What do you have sufficient money in the event of a crisis? Do you have sufficient money to meet your needs? And then you will know whether you could really enjoy a lavish lifestyle, or if you have to curtail, or downsize so you could enjoy that lifestyle.
Okay, Jen, we have about 6 minutes, again, 8 minutes, and we've got to talk about the last stage.
Well, the last stage is, why? The last stage is a continuation. So whatever you put in place for 60
give away all the money to the
know that you could live. My mom, as Terri-Ann mentioned, like my mom was 99 last week. So no, when you cross that stage now, you have to look at, do you still want to live in that big house? Should you downsize? Should you divide that house in such a way that you can have a helper living with you, or a grandchild, or whoever that may be able to support you? Can you afford to put all the other safety measures in place so you wouldn't fall easily? All these things. Make a decision. Do you want to be put in a home, or you want to stay home in the event of some sort of, you get ill, or you have Alzheimer's, etc. But that is not a decision to make, Terri-Ann, after you cross the 70. All these decisions are being made. You see that 60 to 70 period, that is a critical stage in life for decision making. So yes, 70 plus, your decisions have to be made before, the stage before.
I want to compare this to the 60 to 70-year-olds when they're 50 to 60 and they're having a ball and they're not looking at it. And then when they're 60, they realize, oh my God, whether it's disability, death, divorce, the children have commitments and everybody wants my lump sum. And the same way, the 60 to 70-year-olds who are busy spending money on everybody else and giving away their money, when they turn 70 and they realize all the children migrated, or they're in a position that they can't help anybody, the spouse, male or female, can't help you. The house, you are now in a big mausoleum. 5 rooms, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, big kitchen, but nobody's coming to visit. Your grandchildren are living, you in one part of the country, they in another part of the country, and all the lifestyle diseases come down on you. Where is the money now to help you live a wholesome life?
And those are the decisions, but Terri-Ann, you make it before, like now you decide, do I need that car? Because it may not be a big house. It may be a small house. Should I stay in this small house? What do I give up? Because I have to ensure that it's safe enough. Am I in a safe community? Or
Neighborhood.
should I move closer to something? Should I ask then is where the trend may come in. Can I put a little room on, separate to you all, so I feel safer? These are things you have to think about. And Terri-Ann, before we close, I must put in that this is what Connections 50 Plus is all about.
Jennifer,
Helping you.
we have time to do that. And I want to just give
Yes.
one little anecdote, and it is one that is personal, in that
Mm.
I look at the neighborhood I grew up in.
Yeah.
Middle class neighborhood. And when we grew up, everybody was there. So everybody had the 3 and 4 bedroom house and split level, and everybody grew up and children grew up and so on. Jennifer, it is now a neighborhood of octogenarians with
Yes.
no children, no grandchildren, a lot of very old people rambling around alone. Many are widowed or widowers, and their children are either in another part of the country, in another country, and nobody is coming. The cavalry is not coming back. And
Yeah.
had those 80, 90-year-olds 30 years before looked forward, they would realize that they encourage their children to seek greener pastures, seek education, and don't come back. And they would have had the idea now, can I really live in this house that was made for a family of 6 or 8 by myself? And that's really the thing, that when we are in our 60s to 70s, we have to look forward. When we're in our 50 to 60, we have to stop and look forward.
Yeah.
And as you said, we will be so happy to help you do that. But that's something that I live with right now. I look at all
No,
those
it is a
people
situation.
and it's just burglar proof and panic inside.
Yeah. And for those in this age group who had a lot of support, that's great. But many don't have that support, Terri-Ann.
Life is such that
And
I think your mother is extremely blessed because she
yes,
is with you all, but I don't believe that is the
that's not the norm. And I am aware of that. I'm aware of that. And the other thing is she still has all her faculties. She's good. And I know I have clients, I have friends who going through a lot of trauma in that decision making and having to decide whether they should put their other parent in a home, not even parent, because I'm at the age group now where you decide your spouse, your partner.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yourself.
because you can't. And as I said, with that research with Alzheimer's, that it's occurring in much earlier ages. And I have at least 2 friends who have partners who are at that stage, and it's draining them,
Let's, in our last minute, tell people what exactly is our financial coaching about in terms of helping people through these different stages of the 5.8G period of life.
Well, the coaching is one-on-one to what we are doing here, really. Chatting with and I say one-on-one, or if, of course, it could be a couple. Chatting just to let you, where are you now? Take an inventory of your situation. Look at your goals. What do you really want to do? Remove fear. So we start, of course, and we always start with a life assessment. You're not too old, we mentioned that before, to do an assessment. That life assessment helps you with clarity. So you get that clarity. Oh, I really could do that. And I love whatever you love doing. All these things come up. So you set that goal and you look at your financial situation and you discuss different ways. We find the solutions, and that's what we are doing right now. We find the solution because many of us, most of us, want to really enjoy a quality life and be happy, on the third act stage, let me put it that way, which is up until the Lord is ready for us. So we could go 80, we could go 90, you could go like my mother to 100.
Oh, you could go next.
So what we do is really give you that support, help you, guide you on the things that you can do to realize your dreams, your goals. And basically that is it. And it's very easy to chat with us. It's very confidential, and we do have the experience to take you to that stage you want to be at.
Okay, so we promise we're tight, we're crisp,
Yes.
and we really do look forward to seeing you all. So inbox us with your questions. Come onto the website,
Yeah.
CONECTIONS50plus.com. Come on, and let's have a chat. You can have a 15-minute free consultation just to feel your way around. And one other thing, we want to remind you all throughout the Caribbean, especially folks on Gael, from now on Mondays, this program is going to be repeated. So if you want to, you may not be on social media where you could repeat YouTube and Facebook at any time, but if you're on Gael and you're looking forward to seeing this again, Monday afternoon at 6. So Wednesday Alive is repeated every Monday at 6 on Gael. So Jennifer,
Right.
we
So this is where we say goodbye and looking forward to hearing from you, and really take up our offer. Give us a call and let's chat for about 15 minutes and for you to get some clarity as how you can move forward to the third act stage. Really enjoy life on the third act stage.
Okay, so see you. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from TNT and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus Wednesday Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like and share our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback.
Bye for now.